So, are you aware of the healing power that mediumship offers? And did you know that many mediums experience trauma in their lives and have found their way through that trauma with a spiritual connection? And that's the gift that mediums have to offer. This is Angelscapes podcast, and I'm your host, Nancy Smith, and we're welcoming Dominic Boag from UK. He's known as the UK's Scotland's youngest, most successful medium. He's got a brand new book out. He's a brand new author called The Voice of Spirit. So we're going to ask him some questions on that.
Welcome to the Angelscapes podcast, where you're encouraged to uncover and develop a direct connection with your soul's power, wisdom, and spiritual intuition that is ready to blossom. We'll explore new ideas, compelling tips, and real steps to help you learn simple spiritual practices. We're a safe place to learn more about accessing your soul's power with education and spiritual wholeness that could bring more clarity to your life. Now here's your host, a practicing medium, Akashic Records practitioner, spirit artist, coach, and mentor, Dr. Reverend Nancy Smith.
Welcome, Dominic. So good to see you. Good to have you
Likewise,
back.
Nancy, thanks so much. Yeah, glad to be back. I was thrilled when you asked to have me back. So yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. You're so welcome. And you we had so much fun the last time. It was actually almost a year ago, June. We're just a couple weeks earlier.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. All your
Where does
traveling.
the time go?
I don't know. It's
It goes somewhere, right?
somewhere, but yeah. So we're just coming up. I'm going to start by saying we're just coming off this great workshop that I studied with you. A lot of people went to Plymouth, Massachusetts, where you and two other mediums taught, but you brought out so many good points and your mediumship and your philosophies around mediumship that just touched my heart. And that's why I kind of called refer the work that you do as a tender connection through mediumship, because how you connect with spirit and that three-way connection, how you're connecting to your the client or the sitter is really tender. So so tell me about that. I'm kind of stuttering here, but tell me a little bit about your philosophies again.
Uh, I'm a true believer, in order to truly understand the gift of mediumship, and I'm not talking being gifted, I'm talking receiving the gift of hearing from a loved one from a medium. When you truly can understand that gift, and when you can understand the meaning behind it, the purpose behind it, but also the impact that it has, it really changes your life, and I always say to a lot of, especially my students, especially students who are embarking on their own journey in mediumship, we need to come away from, getting the evidence and trying to, blow our own minds of being able to get the nickname or the golden nugget. Let's peel that all back and really get to the root of why that person is sitting in front of you as a medium. Why are they truly there? And what it really, really spans back to, Nancy, is they are there because they are so stuck in grief,
Mhm.
whether that's been a loss of just a few months or whether it's been 5 years of that grief. That gift through mediumship can really change someone's life. And it can really, for me personally, it can actually give someone their life back. Now, does it change the situation? Does it bring the spirit back alive? No, it doesn't. And that's not what it's about, but it's being able to, for a moment, let that individual breathe. So when I work with mediumship, I'm really thinking consciously of who is the most important person in this process? Because it certainly is not Dominic. I'm just going to be the channel or the conduit or, the simple tool that Spirit are going to use. But the most important person in the mediumistic communication is client and the Spirit. And we need to get to that point of the purpose, the need, and the why. So that's where, really I'm working with the mediumship, is trying to come away from this evidence, and it needs to be wow moments and look how good I am because I can get your loved one's name, or I know that he had his right foot amputated. There's so much more to mediumship and the communication with spirit than what I call a treasure hunt of evidence and evidence, because it can change someone's life. So I think that's really where my mind is. When I think about mediumship, when I think about spirit communication, it's really to help heal. And a lot of people, I personally think, we've lost that understanding of what truly is the purpose. Why is someone here to communicate with a medium? They're here because they need healed. So that's kind of where I am, Nancy.
I love that. I really appreciated listening to you to talk about that. And I was watching you work, and I said to myself, he's got a different kind of an intention. He's got a different way of approaching spirit. That's different than I was trained or whatever. Do you have any thoughts on that, or are you just doing your own thing?
I'm certainly doing my own thing, but I think I've seen a lot of mediums. I've been around a good while now. I've been working now as a medium for over more than half of my life, almost coming into 17 years now. So I have seen a lot. Am I different? Maybe, but I look at mediumship differently, and unfortunately, a lot of mediums in today's society are not looking at what they're doing. What they're actually doing is, they're trying to unfortunately follow the ego and make themselves look good. Whereas when I'm working with the spirit world, I'm still dealing with that person. I treat the spirit that I'm communicating with the same way I treat their loved one that I'm dealing with, either in an audience or in a private reading. And that's something that I feel we need to wake up. Mediums need to wake up and realize, just because the son has passed to the spirit world, he didn't stop being a son. We need to still treat him like a son. Just because that mother doesn't have her physical body doesn't mean she stopped being a mother. So in reality, I don't even treat them as spirits. You heard me say over the time we were together, stop using the word energy, stop using the word vibration. It's your mum, this is your son. And I guess you could say I treat them as they're still human beings, because in my reality, that's what they are. So maybe that's where maybe you see me differently. I don't know. I don't know what you see, but that's how I treat them, as I still treat them with the thought of, you are still who you once were, you just don't have that physical body.
In working with clients, now I'm shifting to the client's point of view, and sometimes a client will want to have that person come back alive. Like you just said, it's not really about bringing the person back alive. So you're working with somebody who's bereaved. At the same time, you're working with spirit, and you've got to make that connection. But you also, keeping that client informed. This is what you could expect, but let's keep it calm like this. What would be your advice to somebody who's coming to you, and to any medium, as a matter of fact?
Well, I'm a true believer. We all, and I say this in all my clients. I've just finished doing free readings today, and I have the same spiel that I say to all my clients. And I think it's important for every medium to set the tone. You can't just have someone coming in blind, pardon the pun. They need to be taken by the hand. And I say to all my clients, whether this is your first reading or your 31st reading, this is how I work. This is my hope for you, and this is what to expect. Now, we can't basically say this is A, B, C, and D of what's going to happen, because every time that we communicate with the spirit world, we never know what's going to happen. There's never a guarantee. There really isn't. But I always set the tone of, this is what I hope, and well, this is what I expect. So it's important to set that tone, because it also allows the client to breathe. It's very, especially if it's someone for the first time, hoping to hear for that person from the first time, it's very scary for them. It's very nervous, and their own energy is going to be all over the place. So it's up to us as a medium, as a human being, and as someone who has compassion, to just hold that space just for a moment and just allow them to breathe by setting the tone and saying, I get, that you're here and this is what I hope to achieve for you. I don't know who will come, but I will do my best for you. And as I give you information, just be vocal with me. Just tell me yes. Just tell me no. And as you as a medium are setting your tone and doing your spiel, the spirit world know that's basically your way of saying, boys, girls, I'm getting prepared to work. So if you're there, come closer to me. I'm here for you. I'm welcoming you. And boom, and your mum would be in the spirit world. And as I'm aware of her, so then it will unfold naturally. Unfortunately, a lot of people still to this day have misconceptions of what mediums do.
Oh, I believe that.
Mediums and psychics completely different, fortune telling, channeling, empaths. It's important to always take a moment to just set that tone and allow your client to truly understand this process because it may be very alien to them. And maybe, if you've got someone today, I had 2 clients today who have never been to a medium. So I address them differently. And I always joke, Nancy, just to kind of, settle them. I say, don't worry, I'll take you by the hand and I'll try to make it as pain-free as possible. Because they want to see that you're human. They want to see that actually you're not this God-given gifted person. You're actually just someone who has been touched by death themselves and they know what loss is.
Yeah, you in your well, two questions I want to ask, and they both go in different directions. But the I've been wanting to ask you, and I don't think I got a chance to, is what is your experience of mom on the other side, or son on the other side, or Uncle Fred on the other side of their progression once they pass? Have they learned a lot? Do they have more insight about their lives or the people that they're talking about? I get that question a lot. What happens once you pass?
Well, a lot of spirits come back with a lot of different conceptions of their own life. Most importantly, what I've experienced through communicating with loved ones on the other side is that they have learned their life. They've learned where their failures were, where their successes were, what their purpose was to come and do, and what they still wish to do. But what I've noticed through many years is if people still, for example, if a mum passes to the spirit world and all her family are still here, husband's still here, son and daughter still here, grandchildren still here, what I've seen is that mother still chooses to be more physically present
Mhm.
here in the physical to watch her husband and her daughter, the grandchildren. And when then the husband passes, and then maybe then the daughter, she will then take a step gently more into the spirit side of life when then her daughter will be more present for her children. So whilst there is still a physical and an emotional bond of family still here, our loved ones still choose to be present. Now it's almost like in the halfway side. So they like to be here physically with their loved ones who are here watching over them, you know, looking out for them, doing whatever. What I say is still choosing to be present. But
Okay.
also, they have their loved ones in the spirit world as well. So it's like having the best of both worlds, being able to have a party and catch up and reunite with the old aunt that was the godmother and their parents and cousins that lived in Germany and they stayed in America. A reunion of family comes together, that side of life as well. Do they
Mhm.
evolve deep? I've not got to that place yet with communication just because I'm dealing with people here who are still emotionally attached to. So that's what I've been able to experience.
Okay. I get that. That helps me a lot. Um, the next question that I see a lot, and I'm sure you've seen it lots of times and with clients, is somebody comes through from the other side who's not had a great influence on you, maybe an alcoholic or somebody who had a bad temper, and I don't want to hear from them, please. But they're many mediums have said, but this is a healing moment for both of you. So could you talk about that a little bit? Have they progressed? Are they still cranky pots or what's going on?
Well, first and foremost, let's remember we're dealing with personalities here,
Yeah.
So just because they've lost their physical body, what they truly are made up of being is a consciousness. So that consciousness doesn't just change overnight. But I've had experiences, and one that will always step out for me. A few years back, I was doing a show back here in the UK, and had this spirit lady come forward. She was mum, and she gave me her information. She told me how she passed. She gave me her name. She gave me really specific details. And I feel I'm over in this side of the room, maybe 4 or 5 rows back. No one could take it. So I'm like standing in a room of 300 people, like,
Yeah.
well, but I could see this woman, I could hear her. So I got a little bit more, I divulged a little bit more. And eventually, I went straight over and I says to the third and the fourth row, I feel I'm here. This is my information, A, B, C, and D. And I just pointed to this lady and I says, do you not understand this woman? And she rolled her eyes and she said, well, actually, yes, I do. So she stands up and she says, it's my mother-in-law, but we never got on. She hated me, I hated her. I says, okay, I get that, but her name was this, she passed like this, and this was. So I validated the evidence. I says, okay. I says to the mother-in-law, so why are you here? Now, Dominic knows she's not just here to say your hair is still horrible or you still have that jacket that's disgusting. There's a purpose. So I says to her, tell me your story. Why are you here? And she says, tell her Tell her that I am so grateful that she loved and cared for my son in my absence. So I says to the lady, I says, she wants to say to you that she is so grateful that you cared and you loved her son in her absence. And then out the blue, I heard the name Alan. I says, and she's just mentioned the name Alan. I could feel a gentleman in the spirit world start to come closer to me. The woman in the audience started to cry, and she said, we never got on. She hated me, I hated her, she says, but she passed away. And when she passed away, her son, Alan, my husband, was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and I cared for him, I nursed him, and supported him at home. The mother then brought Alan to communicate with his wife as well. So they didn't get on, the mother and the wife never got on physically, but here she was standing through the medium, thanking her for caring and loving her son in her absence.
Okay. The message was everything. It wasn't just that she recognized, oh, I know who that is. Oh my God. You went back and
Yeah.
said, why are you here? She's kind of freaking
Yeah.
out over here.
And again, it's like they don't just show up for nothing. And the same as like alcoholics now, most of you will know, my father went from being a professional soccer player to being an alcoholic, but he became that alcoholic through trauma that he went through. His own mother took her own life when he was a young boy, and he felt and he carried guilt of not being able to save her. So I grew with anger and upset that my father had this illness. He had this, this was his choice. He chose not to drink or to drink alcohol. That was me being naive. That was me being young. But as I grew older, I started to understand why he was that way. He was really just trying to suppress his pain. I get that. It caused his passing. I understand that. But I know now in the spirit world, my father has been able to heal from the trauma, being
Yeah.
reunited with his mum, but also he doesn't have that physical ailment anymore of
Okay.
that desire or need of alcohol. Does it mean he's perfect and an angel? Absolutely not. But he has grown as a spirit. And, I truly believe that the physical that we go through is left behind, but sometimes there's a remnants within the consciousness.
Right. Right. I think, yeah, there's a lot to learn in life and
Yeah.
and our personalities
Well,
and all that.
the easiest way to say it is even here physically, you and I, do we learn by our first mistake? No, we probably make mistakes twice, 3 times. So it's the
See
same in the
about 10
spirit
or
world.
20 times. Yeah.
Absolutely, we're here having an experience, and I personally believe we're all here doing the best that we can. And it's the same in the spirit world. We cannot assume that the moment they become a spirit, like, hey, I'm now an angel, I have a 6 pack, I've got beautiful big wings, and I can play a harp. I'm complete now. No, they're still who they once were, just living in a different nature.
It's very interesting. Very interesting. I have this question that hits me all the time. Improving the continuity of life. We all go to heaven. We all go to this place of source. Just it's very loving. It's very accepting. We have to do our learning and growing. But then I hear people say, but what happens when you're a bad person? Like, what happens? Are you punished? Or we all want to know, is that bad person getting his get uppance? Or, and in your sense of, I guess, cause and effect kind of thing. And what do you suppose goes on when we pass over and maybe we haven't had the best life possible?
Well, again, from experience of what I've communicated with and what I've communicated with, I believe that when someone, so for example, if someone deliberately takes someone's life, so they make a conscious decision to
Right.
take someone else's life, so that's murder, that's a conscious choice, but eventually then they have passed over to the spirit world as well. That for me will be shown to them, that conscious decision, this was your action, this is what you did, but also here is the effect you caused. This is the pain that you caused this man's mum. This was the children you caused him to leave behind. So I feel that they are put in a moment of their own torture, of their own self-realization of my actions caused this. My
I
actions caused this. So then they will work through their own healing process of acceptance, of realization, and then trying to, if you would, make good. You see, it's
I
not that they go to be punished, because being shown that action
Mhm.
and what they had did, that's punishment on its own.
Sometimes it
And
is.
it's a natural process, it's a natural thing. I mean, again, self, how many times do we do something that we go, I shouldn't have done that? We lose sleep over it, we toss on it, it really eats away at us. It's the same in the spiritual side of life as well. They go through that cycle of, what have I done? Why did I do this? Because, I don't believe people are born evil. I don't believe that it's a conscious decision, whether it was a moment of madness, or whether it was preempted and planned, or I believe eventually when everything's taken back to the organic soul, then they're able to look through the layers of, how did I get to this place? Why did I get there? What pushed me to be there? And then it can all start to unfold.
Unfold beautifully. You I want to go a little bit about your new book, The Voice of Spirit, which it's behind you and hanging up behind you, but The Voice of Spirit, it's not that old. It just came out. And in that book, the first thing that hits me is your life experience. And it's not been easy for you. You've had some doozies in your life,
Yeah.
and yet you come forward with this tremendous compassion for other people. And we're having a huge electrical storm here, so if I just disappear like that, just we'll try again later. But it's pretty wild out there. So
I'm
anyway,
like, hey Nancy, where are you?
no, but the compassion that you had, you made a couple of really important statements about um you don't have to stay here. There's another place that you can go. But what got you to I think it was spirit that moved you through some of it, but you, could you talk a little bit about that? Because I feel like this is a really important message.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, my life, well, it wasn't perfect. I grew up with a biological father who also had his own demons, his own issues, who was very abusive to myself as a very young boy, and to my mom. So that was something that I had to understand and navigate. Why is he, abusive to me? Why does he want to come beat me up? Why does he do this? Why does he lock me in the dark room, or whatever? And as I got older, and things changed, and then with my own situation of losing my father, my stepfather, who became my father, that was truly my first grief, in a sense. That was my first true loss that I could truly understand. So I had to navigate through that, my loss, my hero, my be all and end all, in a sense, my best friend, my buddy. And then, going into losing my eyesight and starting to become visually impaired, that was a real world rock for me. That really shifted everything. That's when I hit rock bottom, to be honest with you. And that's, I was very on a fine line, and I'm sure you read in the book, I was very tempted at times to walk in front of a bus, to just, stop, and I couldn't see forward. I could not see forward. And what kept coming back to me was the spirit basically saying, young man, when you stop feeling sorry for yourself, we will be here waiting. But until then, follow your silence. And I had great friends, and my family, my mom, my sister, my brother, and eventually I met Mark as well. So I had good people around me, but at that time I just didn't necessarily see it, because I was in this depression. I was in this dark hole. But thankfully I was able to be pulled from that, and I was able to really build my relationship with the spirit world a million times stronger than what it ever was. And basically, I put my big boy pants on and I dusted myself off, and I says, Dominic, there is people in this world who are worse off than you. Suck it up. You have got good to do here. And, you know, many years later, here I am still telling the tale. But it's true. That is a very true thing, Nancy. We're entitled to feel angry. We're entitled to go through these motions when, curveballs are thrown at us. But there is always someone worse off, always. And if I can bring a little bit of light into someone else's darkness, job done. That's why I'm still here.
I love that. That is such a clear message. Even when you're working, your whole life story isn't out there for everybody, but you could feel that compassion. And I attribute that compassion as in your mediumship to the fact that I don't think you sucked it up. I feel like you found a way to make it whole and move forward. Because you're not a bitter person at all. You're a very caring person. And that's the spiritual connection. I'm giving you and spirit credit for that. And I hope I have it right.
Oh, bless. I guess we've got that conscious decision, don't we, to either survive or not survive. And thankfully, I found it within the last piece of my fiber to survive. And I understand not everyone has that, and maybe that's just their journey. I get that, but I had to survive. I just had to, and something pulled me through. And I'm just a true believer that what I've been through, maybe it was just what I was meant to go through to become who I am. Was it my sole purpose, or did I choose that? Hell no. It's just life. And it
Yeah,
was what I chose to do with the life.
right.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah. The big soul purpose thing comes in a different package at a different time.
yeah.
To just stay present and do your life. And you talk about a lot of courage to step out. And I know you wanted to do something else with your life. You said that a few times. And in the book, you with Spirit's help, you ended up choosing the mediumship. But I feel like there was a lot of courage that you stepped in. It's like, okay, I'm embracing this full time. I'm really going for that. And I know a lot of people will they're right on the threshold. They got to make the next step into something important in their lives. How did you find that? I mean, I knew you had spirit helping you, pushing you, but talk about courage, the courage it took.
Courage is a great word, and straight away courage, we always think of the Wizard of Oz, don't we? The lion. I think it was the lion that wanted the courage, wasn't it? But I wasn't a brave young man. I was just very content, But when it came to Dominic, and then Dominic as the medium, because as I says in my book, I actually had great ambitions and dreams as a very young boy of being a police officer. I wanted to join law enforcement. So I kind of had that all mapped out, and unfortunately that changed. So I actually had a full-time job working for a company back here in the UK called Sky, which is basically our television. It's basically like Verizon
Mhm.
back in the States. So I was doing customer service and account management on the telephone, on the computers. And back home, I was getting a lot of attention through the media. I was getting a lot of requests to come and do more events, more readings, more teaching, more spiritualist churches. So I was leaving work and then going and doing readings or going and doing demonstrations or shows. And it was getting exhausting to the point of being on the telephone and then actually having people's loved ones coming through as I'm trying to do their account and figure out their bill. And so Spirit were constantly on my case to the point I was giving readings at work, like, yeah, the system's just loading up, but hey, do you understand the gentleman that passed away with bowel cancer? Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's my husband. I'm like, yeah, he's here, you know? So I was getting myself into trouble with that at work. But then eventually, because the demand was getting so big, I eventually says to the spirit world, well, how are we going to do this? Like, I need that push. And eventually my systems changed in work. I couldn't do the computer anymore. I wasn't able to keep up with the software. So basically they kicked me out of my work. Spirit says to me, you've had enough, out you come. And as much as my company was being very helpful and trying their best, I wasn't confident. I was feeling very intimidated. I felt a lot of other colleagues were looking at me. So I was done. I was ready to go. And I stepped out, and my grandparents basically says to me, it's not going to work. You're not going to be able to do this as a job. You need a real job. You need a real job that can bring in funds, can bring in a salary, can bring in money. So we don't advise you do this. And my best friend Siobhan kept saying to me, if you believe in yourself, I believe in you 100%. She says, I will take you places, I will help you. Whatever you need to do, we will do this together if this is what you need to do. So she pushed me, she believed in me, and then things just blew up. And then eventually, when Mark and I got together, and I eventually told him what I'd done, eventually he started helping me and supporting me. And yeah, but it was very, very scary not having, people on your right and people on your left that believe in you. Don't get me wrong, I could stand in front of hundreds of people and do what I'd done because I believed in Spirit. I knew what I had, I knew Spirit were there, and they could come up at the end and say, that was wonderful, that was amazing, thank you, that was my mom, that was empty. That was empty because you didn't have the people that you loved the most actually saying, well done, you can do this. And it took a while for even my mum, my mum eventually came to see me do what I do. And one of the people in the audience, she actually knew from when she was younger, and she received a contact from her father-in-law in the spirit world, who my mum actually knew herself. And my mum actually stood up like, this is my son, and holy cow, how the hell does he know this information? Because I know him, but he doesn't know him. He wasn't even born. So eventually things started to change, things started to unfold, and eventually all my family seen what I could do and eventually started to slowly but surely follow me.
That's terrific. That's such a heartwarming progression. It's a great story. And everyone's got a different story. I'm going to go back a little bit to something that you said it seems to me being a medium, but listening to you talk, that every reading is a little bit different. They're all unique, like thumbprints. They're all unique. And as much as you say, we're going to try to, this is going to happen, or it's going to feel like this, or it's going to look like this, you can't, you don't know who's going to pick up the phone on the other side sometimes.
Exactly.
And you, as being a medium, really need to learn to navigate that. It's like, I don't really want to hear from Aunt Ethel. I really want to hear from so-and-so, but she came. So,
Yep.
and I think being flexible is another, being flexible as a reader, but also being flexible as somebody coming to a reader, getting a mediumship reading. Do you talk about that a little bit? Because people come in with expectations.
Well, that's so true. And my good friend Scott and colleague Scott Milligan, he has a beautiful, beautiful saying which basically says, he who expects nothing will not leave disappointed. If you expect nothing, if you expect nothing of the spirit apart from that they will show up, because they are as desperate to communicate with us as we are to them. you see, and just trust that they will show up. But I always say to my to clients and to my students as well is there's always a bigger picture. There's always a bigger picture, even if it's Aunt Ethel who's been dead 30 years shows up and your mum just passed last week. Why is Aunt Ethel showed up? What is her purpose? What has she come to say? Let's give them their space. Let's give them that moment to express why they're here or what they have to say and let it take care of itself, because she may be coming to really set the tone to help the client just, okay, maybe it's not so scary after all, and maybe the lights will stay on and the head won't start spinning of the medium, and then mum will come in. So there's always that bigger picture. And you know, we actually don't have control over 0800 dial a dad. You know, we can only open our hearts and surrender and say, you know, please come, I'm here for you, your daughter's here or whoever, and trust that process. And if we're working truly and working properly, and if we trust the process, 9 times out of 10, the harmony takes over and the needs are truly met. But you know, it's important to give that aunt who's been gone 30 years at that moment, because if she's consciously in the spirit world made that effort to get the medium's attention, she's done it for a reason. There's a bigger picture going on. So just letting that moment trickle past and allow the rest to unfold is something that's very, very important. It's intimidating. It's scary sometimes, but it comes with experience as well. You know, at times I would get to a place of, oh, I don't want to do this. What if I can't do this? What if I go to these readings and I get nothing? Or what if I'm not good enough? And that just comes down to insecurities with us as ourselves. And eventually with experience and with time, you know, I maybe work with the spirit world 4 or 5 times a week. So I'm always immersed with spirit. I'm always talking to someone who's not there, you know. So I trust that process. I'm comfortable with that. And it comes with good experiences, is certainly what I would say.
It's wonderful. Now you said something about spirit being desperate to come through. And you also talked about in the class that there's like, think of a giant desert and there's millions of people there in one phone booth. So
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about how much spirit wants to talk to us.
Well, it's like us. It's like us. So, for example, I always try to visually describe it for people. So, if we say, for instance, we had newlyweds, so we had Tom and Joan. They had been sweethearts for 20 years. They just got married, and then unfortunately, Tom passes away. So they've only been married 6 months. Tom sadly passed away. He's now in the spirit world. There's a lot there that they still had to do in life. So now Joan needs to continue through her physical life without him by her side. She emotionally is going through grief of losing her sweetheart, but so is Tom. So is Tom. So as much as Joan is desperate to communicate with him, is he okay? Is he still with us? Does he know I loved him? You know, the usual. So does Tom. I want her to know I'm still there. I want her to know I knew she loved me. I want her to see what we had together. So our needs as the physical living people are the exact same as the needs of our loved ones in the spirit world as well. You know, sometimes people go to the spirit world suddenly, unexpectedly, whether it's, you know, a long-term illness that we've been able to prepare for their transition. There's always a need. There's always a need on both sides of life. And that's why, you know, I truly believe that the spirits are desperate to communicate with their loved ones here on this earth as well, because of love. And that's one thing people always say to me, but why are they still here? Why are they lingering around, or why are they stuck here? I'm like, well, number one, they're not stuck, because nothing can stop a spirit from crossing over. Nothing. They're not stuck. Okay. It's they choose to still be a part of life here because of the emotional bond that we call love. You see, so Joan is still here and her sweetheart Tom is in the spirit world. Is he going to abandon her after just getting married? Absolutely not. He still deeply loves her. He'll be grieving for her. So he's still going to try his damn best to show his sweetheart he's still around in some way, isn't he? He's going to want her to know he's okay and that he's still there and he misses her and he loves her. And that just because they didn't get their trip to Hawaii, eventually she's to do that. you know, so the emotional bond is what keeps us still connected.
It's good to know. That's good to know. And he's I think this gets confusing for some people here, the sitter clients here, is their loved ones miss them. They're on the other side of the miss them, but are they okay? Well, they're okay, but they're still feeling that feeling for you. Well, I don't want them to be
Exactly.
upset. I don't want them. I just but I have what I hear you saying is there's still an emotional component. They didn't die and become emotionalists. There's still love very much
Exactly.
alive there, and maybe not so much fear, and maybe the Alzheimer's is gone, but the love is still there. That's the most enduring thing that I feel.
It's interesting, obviously, just when you say that, like, but I don't want them to be upset. Well, hold on. Do you physically here want to be upset and do you want to be in this grief? No, you don't. It's the
Yeah.
same with them. They don't want to be, but are you being cared for and consoled and healed by friends and family still here? Yes, so are they. Because remember, he talks about now being back with his brother. He's talking about reconnected with his mum. So as you're being loved and nourished here and moving through the stages of this emotional roller coaster, so is
Over
he.
there on the other side.
It's basically a mirror. You see what we go through physically here, they go through physically there
Mm.
as well. You see, it would be silly to think that someone who came into this earth as a soul from a baby, learned how to talk, learned how to breathe, learned how to walk, learned how to love, the moment that that heart just stops, it would
Mm.
be strange to think that then when they go to the spirit world that that all has ended and they don't have that emotion, they don't have that love, and they don't have that thought process. They just live in a different room. That's the easiest way to describe it.
From different aspects. Yeah, it's a beautiful. That's why I think mediumship is so healing. It's like it's not a big off switch. It's still a continuity. The life is still flowing in a very beautiful way, in a very healthy way. But it's still flowing, and I think that's what people
Of course it is.
need to know. That here on the physical side, I feel, is that life is still flowing, that there still exist, and you can still have it's a different kind of relationship, but the relationship can still flow between the two of you, and that's a challenge for people. But I feel like that's the healing aspect of mediumship to me, and
Well, it's just, just because the physical life ended didn't mean the love stopped.
right,
You see,
right.
and that's a crazy, and that's why, Nancy, sometimes when I'm teaching, I'm like on a soapbox. I get so passionate because I know the healing it can be done, and I know there's life after death. I don't need proof that there's life after death. I know there is. There's no doubt about it. That's me. But
Yeah,
if mediumship is done properly and we get rid of the BS, we can actually help show other people there's more to this. Life truly is eternal, and one day you will get there. So this is why I get so passionate. Like, come on, they're not dead. They just lost their ability to talk to you through your physical ear.
I
Doesn't
wish
mean that they're still
yeah.
loving you.
Yeah, I wish they could just keep talking. Now, I watched this. It's a documentary. It's not been published yet, but for some reason they invited a small group of people to watch it. And they talked about this non-support in the scientific or the mental health community. Um, they just don't support mediumship. Some people still feel like mediumship is kind of an illness, mental illness. So I don't know what they think about us mediums, but when a woman who misses her husband, but she hears him talking, so she does automatic writing, so she's connecting to him every day. They say, well, there's a psychosis there, and so I really wanted to bring this front and center that mediumship is not a psychosis. It's not something we can still feel our loved ones. We can still, if you have the talent to do automatic writing, or if you feel or you have a sense of inner, when you say you see people, I know that literally, I don't know if you see them sitting in front of you, but you see them clairvoyantly through your through gifts. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I think it's very important to, number one, realize that everyone will deal with grief differently because there's no right or wrong way. So who are we to say to a wife who feels and believes that she can hear her husband's voice and that she's able to do automatic writing, who are we to take that away from her if it's helped her survive 2 years of grief? You see, if that is her healing process, that's her journey, that's her experience. So who are we to say that's right or that's wrong? I always look for intelligence. Mediumship, I know mediumship is real because there should be intelligence in the communication. You see, it shouldn't be, silliness. There's got to be intelligence through it. For example, if we've got the automatic writing and the husband is communicating with the wife, if we were to look through what is being righted or what is being scriptured, there should be intelligence. Is he talking about family that live in the other part of the States who's just been diagnosed with cancer that we've not seen or not heard from? Can we call them up and say, hey, Patty, is everything okay? I've been thinking about you. Is there intelligence that's going to show that? Because in psychosis, we don't have intelligence. And psychosis, we only have that fine line of the cerebral that actually comes from the imagination or what we perceive to create. You see, so psychosis, there's a fine line, whereas in mediumship, we're dealing with a consciousness that we know is still there and still living and still a part of the physical. So they should have more intelligent information to express with us. So there's that fine line. But again, everyone's going to have a different experience. It's the same as mediumship. Some people clairvoyant, clairaudient, claircognizance, clairsentient. Everyone's going to have a different faculty. But who truly are we to take away from someone's ability? I think that's very damaging. I would rather see someone survive rather than take it away from them to see them crumble again. Yes,
Exactly.
maybe medically it might not be healthy, but 2 years of still being here is better than 2 minutes of death.
Well, you got a point there. You got a point there.
You
There's
know,
that is, and I feel like a lot of times people don't understand their own spirituality until they experience a death in their life. And then they're starting
exactly.
to think about it. They're saying, what the heck just happened, right?
Yeah.
So
And I'm a true believer, until, people can be skeptical and that's wonderful. That's fantastic. Me, myself, you'll read in the book, I'm the biggest skeptic you'll ever meet. Even my own medium, I'm like, how did you get to that, Dominic? How did you know this? Do you know this? Where did that come from? I analyze everything I do. I've got to be skeptical because I want to make sure that it's intelligently communication.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but where was I going with that? Yes, so we have to just accept that it's a mechanism that's allowing us to continue to breathe. That's the easiest way to relate with it.
Yeah, yeah. I look at it. Are you learning? Are you growing? Are you developing? Are you stuck in and not moving, or are you
Yeah,
unfolding? This one of the tests for this one particular woman who was doing automatic writing, her friend was so skeptical, didn't believe it, and she tried to do it and she couldn't do it. So she sat down with her friend, and her friend did it a little bit for her and brought her husband through and
yeah,
made her laugh. And they started laughing, and she goes, "Oh, I know how to do that now. I can do that." And it was beautiful. Um, and the gift that they were able to share with their other friends who were going through in the elderly community. They were going through lots of changes. We forget about our
yeah,
elderly sometimes, but I'm going down a rabbit hole here. But the healing properties of mediumship, I think this is where I wanted to talk about. Really, it's not it's a mental health thing as well, and when it's done correctly, when it is really truly spiritual communication, spirit communication. But so do you have
But
any
like I
things?
said, it changes your life. It changes an individual's life if it's done properly, and the spirit has been able to touch their loved one's soul once again. It can be the difference between them existing and them living, and there's
Yes,
a difference.
big difference, and so important.
Yeah,
And it changes when you step into living after having the big trauma. There are a lot of gifts in it
yeah,
that you wouldn't have known even existed for yourself, except for you went through that change. The
yeah.
same you went
Of
through
course
that.
it is.
Or I went through it. Change
Yeah.
when you're warrior. Like, okay, I'm just
Well, we just gotta, you know. And
And
it's something that's going to continuously happen. It's something we cannot escape, we cannot run away from.
yeah, definitely, definitely. Do you have anything that stands out for you when you do your work that you just wish everyone would know or just want people to experience?
In all honesty, it's like they've not changed. Like I said earlier, like your son didn't become an energy. He's not a vibration. He's still your son that shaved his eyebrow, that wears his pants down at his butt. Because again, that's how I see them. That's how I perceive them. So sometimes it not upsets me, but sometimes when I'm working and I get it so clear and I can communicate with their loved one and I hear things and like, God, I wish you just seen what I saw, or I wish you heard what he just says to me, or even when I see them reaching out and trying to kiss their person or whatever, I wish people would just realize they are still here, they are still with me. Just trust that. That love doesn't die. That love keeps them there. And, just because I can communicate with them clearer than you can doesn't mean that they're not there. They're very much by your side. Yeah, that's one thing wish everyone could have the same experience that I have when communicating in the medium capacity.
Yeah, sometimes I'll feel that love. I do the clairsentient real easy. I'll feel that love coming from the person, and I wonder. I ask for help. How can I put this into a words, or how can I create an experience so that person in front of me can feel the love that I'm
Yeah,
feeling? And it's you know, it's so I just close my eyes and Care Bear stare them the love. But
absolutely. But sometimes just taking a moment and just
yeah,
saying to the spirit, let them at least feel a fraction of what I'm feeling with you. Just taking a moment and allowing that silence or that stillness for them to at least feel something. So yeah.
yeah. So I don't want to stop talking to you, but we're coming to the end of it.
We could chat all night, can't we? I'm surprised we're not got the tea and the cookies and having a good old.
Absolutely. Terrific. But I wanted to remind people that this is Dominic Boag, and the book called The Voice of Spirit is, see, I have it, is
Yeah, signed
a good
copy as
read.
well.
Yeah. It's a good read. If you can get it on Amazon, it's up on Amazon.
Yeah, you can get it on Amazon. Yeah.
And if somebody wants to work with you or connect with you for a reading, even, I mean, you're in UK, how do people reach you for readings?
Yeah. So just an easy Google search or just going on to my direct website, dominicboag.com. There will be live events, private readings, and a contact me button, and keeping in touch on social media as well, seeing where I am on my travels and all the things that I am up to as well. So there's only one me, there's only one Dominic Boag, so it's easy. I'm easy to find. I can't be hidden, let me tell you.
And you do international work, so you work out the hours, so
Yeah.
you're very available. And that's what I'm really excited when people come in. I pick people who are available. So
Yeah.
and you're very, very available. And
I do try. I do try.
yeah.
You've got to be. Hey, the spirits don't sleep.
I'm thinking about that big desert with all those spirits in it in one phone booth. I'm like, we got to get this going.
Exactly. Could you imagine them all running like, "Hey, Nancy, it's me."
Well, you're a gift. You're really much of a gift to a lot of people. And I just thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and ideas and experiences. I have to say that as I watch people on the live while we're doing this, that they're like very excited and grateful to hear you tell your story. So thank you for coming on. And so for
You're
everyone
welcome.
who's, oh gosh, yeah. So for everyone who's listening, please reach out to Dominic if that's what you're inspired to do. And do reach into your spirit deep down inside and know that your life has a lot of meaning, even if you don't feel like it. So spirit's here to help. So thank you so
Absolutely.
much. I'm going to end the session right now, and I wish everyone the best.
Thank you for joining the Angelscapes podcast. We hope you've gained new insights and inspiration for your journey to uncover and access your soul's power. For more information and a deeper dive into finding clarity in your life, go to angelscapes.com Remember to subscribe so you can be part of the discussion. It may just change your life. See you next time.